Alright, hey everybody, welcome back to Gecko Tech and Gaming. So, this one's been in the works for a while, pre-ordered, all that stuff. The M42 Wireless from Xtrfy. So, been putting this thing through its paces, and I gotta say, this is probably my most preferred, or very close to my most preferred mouse right now. It has a lot of really good features, good components, build quality's great, it's just really nice. I'm really excited about this one. It's got a lot of cool features that can make it modifiable for a lot of people. At a good size, good weight, build quality's good, everything just feels very nice about this mouse. I mean, I'm pretty excited. I very much like this mouse. No creaks, no cracks, very solidly built mouse, pretty lightweight, lots of nice features, very customizable too, and I'll get into that a little bit more in the rest of the video. Overall, this is just a really solid mouse. And on top of that, I also had a really good experience with Xtrfy as a company, and I think that's very valuable. So stick around to the end to kind of hear my story about that. Okay, so the M42 Wireless. Let's look at the hard specs first, and then we'll move on to my opinion on the mouse. So the M42 Wireless from Xtrfy uses 2.4 hertz wireless dongle to connect. It also uses USB-C if you want to connect wired or use it while you're charging. Now, the power switch on the bottom helps to control the DPI, the RGB, and the function of the DPI button, all within the mouse itself. There's actually no program for this, which could be a pro or a con, just kind of depends. Now, I only use two DPI settings, 1600 and 3200, so this thing has like 8 DPI settings by default. So when I want to switch between those, I've got to cycle through a bunch of steps to get to it. But at the end of the day, I think making the program obsolete and just having all the settings directly in the mouse is a step in the right direction. Uses Kale 8.0s, feel nice, light, crispy sounding. I mean, nothing to complain about. The side buttons are also very nice. Scroll wheel. All these buttons are really good. Now, there is a little bit of pre-travel and post-travel on mouse 1 and mouse 2, but it's not very bad at all. I don't notice it at all in use, in practice. Side buttons have the same amount of pre and post travel as pretty much anything else. But I will say that they feel very nice. They have got a good, nice tactile click to them. They're not spongy at all, feel very good. And the scroll wheel, this is absolutely the #1 scroll wheel I've ever used on a mouse. Now, the tensioning is pretty much perfect, at least for me. I find a lot of mice have really light tensioning, and it's almost like it's just slipping and sliding around. But this is really good. The steps are very, very well defined, and even the click is nice and crisp. It's not too easy to depress without also being too difficult to press. I'm super impressed with this scroll wheel. It's really good. There's also a polling rate button on the bottom. I mean, 9 times out of 10, all of us are going to be using the 1000 hertz polling rate anyway, so it's there. It's rocking the 3370 sensor. Very accurate, no complaints, very snappy, responsive, good sensor. The weight is about 67 grams. It does this partly by having all these holes in it, but I find that the holes aren't too bad. I actually prefer the holes. I like the little bit of airflow that it gives you. I also find that the holes themselves aren't overly sharp on the corners, so it's not super uncomfortable to hold. Now, there is an adjustable weight inside this mouse. It comes by default pretty much dead center, but I find that the weight centering is pretty much perfect out of the box. If for some reason you prefer the weight more in the back or more in the front, that is an option, but I just left it as is, just a default. The shape is very nice. The dimensions are somewhat similar to, say, the Viper Mini. I would say if you're waiting for a Viper Mini, this would actually work really well. So the shape is actually a bit safer than the Viper Mini as well. It doesn't flare out as drastically in the front. There is a slight curve on the inside on both sides to help with picking up for grip, and a little bit of a flare towards the rear hump. This mouse could very easily be used by anyone with small all the way up to large sized hands, all depending on, you know, what kind of grip you're using. But honestly, I could recommend just the shape and size alone. It's really good for a very wide range of people. Now, in my opinion, the star of the show with the M42 Wireless is the shell. It comes with a customizable shell that has two different shells. Now, I switched it to the flatter one. I find I get a little bit more room to do micro adjustments when I have the smaller hump. But the larger hump is also actually very comfortable in hand. It feels very nice. That larger hump will be really good for people who use claw grip, whereas the smaller hump would be good for people with smaller hands or people who are doing more of a fingertip grip. I really do like the extra little bit of space between my palm and the mouse with that smaller hump. But yeah, I mean, this is a mouse that could really suit anybody. That feature alone with the customizable shell, I think more companies need to start doing that. This feature alone, in the absence of other companies doing customizable shells like this, really makes this S tier, like top tier in my opinion. Now, my only significant gripe with this mouse is that it uses screws for changing out the shell. Other companies like Ponage just use small magnets and it makes it super easy. Now, for most people, I think you're gonna basically just find the shell that you prefer and just stick with it anyway, so it's really not that big a deal. But for me, I actually like the way both of them feel for different purposes, so it would have been nice if I could just quickly swap them out. It's also more secure using a screw. It's not something that, you know, you'd be taking out and putting back on fairly regularly. The other thing to consider is the fact that it doesn't have a program to get more granular control of like how many DPI settings there are, the exact RGB, like the color value for the lighting. So you're kind of limited there, although there's plenty of options. But if you like to use a particular lighting for your setup, you won't have that exact same light on your mouse to match whatever other RGB you have on your desk. But again, I think having these settings in the mouse the way that Xtrfy is doing it is the right move overall. That's a step in the right direction. Now, at $120 MSRP, this isn't exactly a budget option, but the modifiable shell, even the modifiable weight, even though I don't personally value that too much, the fact that all the settings are within the mouse itself, this is like really, really good. And for $120, yeah, I could definitely recommend the Xtrfy M42 Wireless pretty easily. The size is great, the shape with that modifiable shell, anybody could use this thing. So very, very easy recommend for nearly anybody. I give this thing 2 thumbs up, and honestly, it's probably gonna be on my desk for a while. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is just Xtrfy as a company. Everyone's been having delays. There's been part shortages and all that stuff for a long time, so that's nothing new. But Xtrfy, when there is a delay in getting the product out to all the pre-order customers, they sent out an email to let everybody know, hey, there is a big delay. So it sounds like there was some kind of issue with the shipping. It sounds like the units got damaged initially, so they had to get another batch of units made and sent out. But they didn't leave it there. They also threw in a free mouse pad. They threw in a GP4 for the pre-orders that got delayed, which is very nice. When a lot of other companies are just kind of doing a little update, like a tiny little fine print thing on their website, they're going out of their way to write an email to their customers. And not only that, trying to make it right with that mouse pad, even when it wasn't really their fault in the first place. 2 thumbs up for Xtrfy as a company. That's how you build a customer base. That's how you do it. I'm very interested to actually look at their other products now, just because of that alone. I mean, this is super well built, really good mouse, really good customer service. This is a win-win. Mini review for the GP4. Feels very nice, very well balanced, decent amount of speed, decent amount of control. It's not overly muddy, not overly fast. This is a really dead center mouse pad. The stitching is very nice, very tight. I don't see any fraying out of the box. It lays flat pretty quickly. You may need a day or two, and you may need to roll the edges a little bit, but it does flatten out very well. And overall, I like it. I generally like a little bit more speed in my pads, but this is really good. But anyways, M42 Wireless is definitely up there. It's gonna be on my desk for a while. Looks good, feels good, nothing significant to really complain about. It's a good mouse. 2 thumbs up, definitely. But anyhow, that's another video. Hope that helps out. Like, subscribe. It helps me out a ton if you like the videos and all that stuff. Y'all take care, stay safe, God bless, and I will see you on the next video. All right? Later.